part of me that still it holds on to things that you would say that would imply that I was the one that caused y'all's divorce. What did I say? Like, I was seeing your husband while y'all were happily married in your house, and that was never the case. Like, that was, and we all know that that was never the case. I think that was, for me, where my biggest issue for me and you came in. Just being looked at like I actually caused the demise of y'all's situation, when all of us know that I didn't do that. That was difficult for me. I don't know what you want me to say to you. There was opportunity for you to say, no, I didn't say she was a side chick. I never said you were a side chick. Even though you didn't say it, surely you saw some comments about me being this side chick. I don't do interviews. I don't talk to fan base. I don't do any of that. I didn't know that you felt that I was responsible for what they said.
I'm back with another rant that I forgot in my Love and Marriage Huntsville when I was talking about Kimmi and Maurice. There was another point that I forgot to make, which is previously I was talking about how Kimmi obviously is very sensitive about the whole being pegged as a side chick, you know, and I get it. I understand why. Yeah, there was going back to, it wasn't last season, but I think it was the season before last. The whole chatter about her being a side chick, the place where it grew its legs was from Martell Holt. He's the one who started talking about that on the show, that Kimmi was allegedly a side chick. And, then everybody went on a couple's trip to Vegas, and there was a scene where they were all in a pool, and Martell and Marceau started making jokes about it again, that Kimmy's a side chick, and she was visibly upset and trying to get everybody to, hey, stop, calling me that. That's not who I am. And one thing that was glaringly obvious was Maurice was very silent. He had just mute, had nothing to say. And when you really think about it, he's never really had anything to say. And what annoys me about Kimmi is, I don't know if you're checking him off of camera. I want to assume that you're doing that. I don't know how it benefits you to not also, check him on camera. But she's never checked him for not, saying anything. So that tells me his silence, you learn to pay attention to the things that people are not saying. Forget what they're saying. Pay closer attention to what they're not saying. So the fact that he's never really stood up and came to your defense, again, this is just another example of him not protecting her where it counts the most. So the fact that he's never had anything to say, that lets me know that Kimmi, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it seems like you were a side chick and just didn't know it. Because if anybody knows what your position was at that time, it is Maurice, so if you were not, then why hasn't he just easily come out and made that clear? Why hasn't he said anything? And you've been complaining so much about how you feel like you've sacrificed yourself and your son, Jalen, for the sake of protecting everyone else's image, protecting his son's image, protecting Maurice's image, even protecting Kiuwha's image, and speaking of Kiuwha, coming to this current season, apart from, issues with having sex in the bedroom, one of the other issues that Kimmi is having with her husband this season is that she doesn't feel like he's not enforcing, the rules of the house with his son as much as she needs him to, especially considering what she's going through right now being in remission. Like, she needs a lot more help around the house, and she doesn't feel like Maurice is making that clear to his son Monster. Again, I already said I hate calling that boy Monster, but for the sake of the review, I'm just gonna keep referring to him as that. But anyway, so yeah, that's what Kimmi's issue is this season. And so Maurice also has a way of being very, he's another gaslighter, somebody that's very manipulative. And I think it was last week's episode where he now manipulates the conversation and shifts it to what Kimmy's talking about, to making the suggestion that, you need to meet up with Kiuwha so you guys can talk about, ironing out your issues. And Kimmy's like, what issues? I don't have any issues with her. And from what I could see, they don't have any issues. They seem to have they've reached the point where they have a very cordial co-parenting relationship. And Kiuwha, we haven't really seen her much since season 1. Of course, she's made a few appearances, but everything seems to have calmed down between the two of them. Like, yes, it is possible for ex-wife and the new wife to get along. They don't always have to be at loggerheads. Like, I feel like some men get a kick out of, women fighting and on their behalf. Like, they want to feel like somebody is fighting about them. And it's like, no, it's not always like that. But anyway, so she's like, yeah, I don't have any issues with her. But yet, in the end, she still ends up sitting down and meeting with Kiuwha. And I'm like, how did we get here? And she goes to Kiuwha and basically, in so many words, says that she needs to be the one to kind of come out and clarify that Kimmi was not a side chick. And Kiuwha is just like, I'm with Kiuwha on the fact that, okay, first of all, why am I here? If we're not talking about my son, then there's really nothing for us to talk about, and Kiuwha basically let her know, like, I don't have control over what people say in blogs. She doesn't sit down to do interviews. I haven't seen her do any, but even with all of that, like, again, it's not her duty. She owes you nothing, no shade, but she doesn't owe you that. And it's not her place. It's your husband's place. And the fact that you, at least on camera, are not saying, you, Maurice, as my husband, if I'm not a side chick, so you need to defend me to anyone who is, spreading that about me. So I just think it was kind of ridiculous that she was expecting that of Kiuwha, the ex-wife, and not of her own husband, Maurice. That's all I got to say on that.